Hey Archery Talk, this is Lucas, and today I've got one of my favorite videos of the year. This is the best draw cycle of 2026. In this video, I've got 7 of my test bows that I got in this year, and I'm going to be ranking them all from my least favorite to my most favorite draw cycle. Now, keep in mind that there's a pretty big difference this year in the speeds produced by these bows, and so you'll find that the bows that produced the fastest speeds are kind of towards the least favorite of my draw cycles, and the bows that were maybe on the slower side are some of my favorite bows to draw. And that's absolutely normal, and it's pretty much the same every year. So just keep that in mind. The bows that do well in one category are probably not going to do quite as well in the other. And with that in mind, let's get started. So number 7 on this list is going to be the APA Black Mamba Pro 6. And you know, that's not super surprising when you saw the speed test video and this thing shot a blistering 348 feet per second. So not super surprising that's going to be towards the bottom end of the draw cycles. But that's not to say the draw on this bow is bad. It's actually relatively linear and fairly smooth. The only issue for me is once you get to the wall, the valley is fairly short, and if you relax at all, it wants to get away from you a little bit. That said, the letdown is pretty easy, all things told, for a bow that's that fast. You just have to stay pinned against the wall. But the actual draw itself is probably could be as good and probably finish middle of the pack when you're thinking just about the actual draw. But if you're considering the whole package of holding and everything like that, that's what kind of moves this down the list, at least for me. If you like a short valley, then obviously you're going to like this bow, how it feels on the draw, a lot more than I do. But the bow is smooth, it holds on target well, and it shoots really nice. Number 6 for me this year is going to be the PSE Sicario. And honestly, I thought I was going to dislike this bow from the get-go. I asked PSE to borrow a bow this year, and this is not the bow I asked for, but it's the bow they wanted me to test. And after shooting it, I can absolutely understand why. Not only is this bow blistering fast, 352 feet per second through the chronograph. That is the fastest bow I have ever had the chance to test. And it was the clear winner this year in our speed test. But the draw is not as chaotic as I would have thought from a speed bow. I mean, this is a very short brace sight, to be fair, but the draw itself, that's a 70-pound bow that's doing 352 feet per second. That is pretty good. Let down, it's, you know, I would say not really much worse than average. I'm in the 85% let off position on this. If you're in the, if you're looking at the 80 or the 75, the letdown is probably going to be a bit easier, but I like the valley a lot more when it's set up like this. And the bow is a real shooter. It holds on target very nicely. It is super lightweight, and it's really nice feeling bow, and God, it's an absolute shooter like all of them are this year. You just can't believe the speed it produces. This bow has a lot going for it, and in the draw cycle comparison, it's going to sit in about 6th place. I would call it a very tight gap now when we're looking at the next 3 bows. And so number 5 on this list for me is going to be the Mathews ARC 34. But on a different day and a different shooter, it could have finished, I mean, at least as high as 3rd for me, depending on the day. But today, in my experience, I'm going to put it at number 4. That's not to say I don't like the draw cycle on this bow. And also, I should say, this bow was quite fast. This is the fastest Mathews bow I've ever tested. And I think it finished 3rd overall in our speed test this year. And so there's something to be said for that. But you know, part of the way to get extra speed is going to be making a draw that's a little bit stiffer. And now this one is a stiffer draw, but it is smooth. It's a very linear draw, which is something I've always kind of felt from Mathews. So I like that a lot. It's just maybe a touch stiffer than some other Mathews bows I've shot in recent years. Let down, again, it's once the cam rolls over, it's a little aggressive at the start, but nothing terrible considering, again, you're getting, you know, high 330s on speed, 339 feet per second, I think I got out of this bow. Really fast, and you know, obviously it's dead in the hand after the shot. It's a nice quiet bow, and you know, the Mathews has a pretty winning formula for that. I also absolutely love how this bow holds on target. It's the 34 axle to axle bow. It's an absolute nail driver of a bow. It's also maybe my favorite looking bow of the year as well. And all that considered, it's number 5 in the draw cycle competition. In the 4 spot, we've got the Obsession UltraMag 360. And as I mentioned in some of my other setup videos this year. This is actually a 2025 bow. I just got it after I'd finished all of my 2025 videos, so I'm making sure it gets included in the 2026 videos. And the Obsession UltraMag 360 has a draw cycle that does not match up to its advertised speed of 360 feet per second. And I think that's largely because that's not what I saw out of the chronograph. But this is a really nice bow to draw. Like it's an easy bow to let down. It's an easy bow to draw. You know, again, this certainly could have finished a 1 or 2 spots higher. I kind of have that bow, the 3, 4, and 5 bows kind of pretty much neck and neck in this competition. But I've not shot a lot of Obsession bows, but this is easily my favorite one to shoot of the year. It's a real winner, and it's ultra lightweight. This has got the Magnite riser, so it's you know, it's lighter than aluminum. It's super stiff, and it's a treat to draw back. And the number 3 spot for me is going to be the Elite Veros. This is Elite's newest flagship bow, and I've been really enjoying shooting this bow. It is, I don't know, it's a bow that absolutely fits me as a shooter. It is one of my favorite bows as far as accuracy goes. I would say this and the Mathews are just neck and neck as far as accuracy goes for me this year. And it's got a draw cycle that is really nice to shoot all day long. Again, no real hump in the valley, maybe just the slightest kind of dip at the very end, but it's barely noticeable. Let down, pretty okay on that as well. I've got this at about 85% let off. If you put this at 80, the letdown is going to be a little easier. If you put it at the full 90, it's going to be a little bit more of an aggressive kind of rollover into the deceleration of the draw cycle there. But overall, the bow is nice to draw. It's an absolute shooter. And you know, as we know from over the years, Elite makes bows that are really, really nice draw cycles, and this one matches that up with being an absolute nail driver of a bow to shoot. And that's why it's in the number 3 spot. So I mentioned earlier that the 3, 4, and 5 spots were neck and neck, and the same can be said about the number 1 and number 2 spots this year. I went back and forth quite a few times tonight. I must have shot the last 2 bows, you know, 15 shots back to back just to see which one stood out to me, and it's a razor thin decision. And you might feel differently than I do, and I absolutely respect that. But for me, the Darton TriTech 33 gets the number 2 spot for me this year. This bow shot very good speeds, just almost exactly hitting its advertised speed, I think 2 feet per second off at 337 feet per second. Absolutely love that. That was with the speed mod, but the standard mod, it hit its advertised speed again with that, about 2 seconds off. And you know, when I'm talking about my favorite draw cycle, I put the standard mods on here over the speed mods. But even with that, I think the speed mods of this bow and the winning bow would be pretty much still in the number 1 and number 2 spots. These 2 bows were a cut above everyone else for me this year, and the Darton TriTech is a peach to draw. Like, that is a very nice draw cycle. It's hard to find any faults with it, to be honest with you. The letdown, not too bad at all, as you can see there, except for my rest went down with it. I don't like that, but that's not the fault of the bow. That's on me probably installing the resting correctly. But the Darton TriTech is, I don't know. I've gotten to shoot Dartons now 2 years in a row after not being able to get any of them in for testing for the previous 7 or 8 years I was doing these videos. I'm so glad they're in. They are fantastic bows to shoot. They are great and easy bows to tune. And I love that they're basically hitting their advertised speeds on the button. That's a winning formula for me this year. And so I am delighted to have the Darton TriTech 33 finish in the number 2 spot for draw cycle. So the winner of my favorite draw cycle of 2026 is going to go to the Prime Divide 33. And as I mentioned, this is by the absolute narrowest of margins over the Darton TriTech. These 2 bows are a treat to draw, and the Prime, again, I've loved how Prime bows draw for years and years. The issue has always been their speed. Their advertised speed and their recorded speed, in my mind, have been 2 very different things, but that is not the case this year. This bow gave me 337 feet per second out of the chronograph with the speed mods on. That's just 2 feet a second under the advertised speed. Absolutely incredible. And it does all of that with a draw cycle that is so easy, especially in the first half. It's maybe has the slightest dip into the valley, but the draw is so easy. And the letdown, pretty easy as well. Again, there's a good amount of valley in the standard mods, It's a little bit tighter with the speed mods on, but with the standard mods, this bow is just, it's so light and easy to draw. It doesn't make any sense, especially when you consider how freaking fast it is. So kudos to Prime for nailing that formula for me this year. And that's all I've got as far as my favorite draw cycles. ArcheryTalk, thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel an awful lot. And we'll see you soon.